One of the topics I feel pretty strongly about, philosophically anyway, is the equipment you have. A lot of people these days get really caught up in the brand of the equipment they're using. And by equipment, I mean your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, your webcam, your stuff, right? A lot of people will take all their money and buy one piece of equipment, right? Say that it's a laptop. They'll have just a laptop and they'll do everything with it. And they'll spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on that laptop, leaving them without a tablet, without a desktop, without a proper webcam, without a proper microphone, without any of the other pieces of equipment. I think you are much better served by buying a reasonable cost budget, but getting the entire spectrum of equipment filled out, because I think it takes more than just one piece of equipment to do your job these days. And what I mean by that, like, let's talk about why I believe that, why I think that's a fact. Well, if and this is really true for people who are doing sales, who are doing business development, who are building agencies, who are having to work in mixed environments. When I sit down to do a presentation with you, if I'm sitting there and we're going to book an appointment, if all I have is a desktop, for example, I'm not going to be able to show up and bring something with me to do a presentation with you. If all I have is a tablet, it's going to be a pretty small screen. If all I have is a laptop, I'm not going to be able to take notes while showing you something. You see what I'm saying? If all I use is my phone, for example, to show you the website, I can't show you how it's going to look on the phone and show you the desktop view on a laptop. You need to have a mixed bag of equipment, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. These days, we're blessed with fortunate times in that perfectly adequate equipment is available for nothing. A quick trip over to Craigslist in the used computer section will show you that for a few $100s, you can get yourself a tablet, a laptop, and in all likelihood, a desktop as well for, the money that, you used to spend on just a monitor a few years ago, 10 years ago. You can get yourself properly equipped for very, very little money. Now, I'm not saying don't get yourself a really nice system. That's not my point at all. But do fill out the repertoire of equipment. And some of the equipment that I think is really necessary to function. Number one, I think a decent microphone. Get yourself like a Yeti mic. A microphone, it doesn't have to be a setup like this here, but you get yourself a decent mic. Get yourself a Yeti, right? The Yeti is an all-in-one unit, and they're silver, and they come in different colors these days, but it's an external USB microphone that also has its own little sound card built into it so that you can hook a headset right up to the Yeti, and you can talk and do your job. If you're using Skype, for example, and you have Skype voice where you're going to be calling people with that, if you're relying upon like a cheap, little headset, one of those little headset mics or something like that, you're going to sound awful. And if you sound awful, well, that's going to affect you. It's going to hurt you. You're much better off getting yourself something like a Yeti where you spent $50, $60. You don't have to get one new. New, they're about $100. And, you have a piece of equipment there that's great. So a microphone is necessary. The other thing that's necessary is a good laptop. A good laptop can basically replace a desktop these days, although not completely. It can basically fill the void for just about every single thing you are going to do if you're doing business development. What do I think of Mac versus PC? I'm going to avoid that whole debate because the fact is the Macs are perfectly adequate, perfectly solid systems. The PC side, they're very cheap. You can get yourself a decent laptop for, a couple $100s in the used market or refurbished right from Amazon.com with a full return warranty and all that stuff. And you know what? It's going to do the job just fine because most of the things you're going to be doing are not high-powered things. They're not like high-powered graphic design. They're not 3D gaming. This is a business system. All it has to do is be able to boot business apps and load them up and run them adequately. You need to be able to open documents, play presentations, run web browsers, that kind of stuff. And you can get yourself a really good laptop for peanuts that will do that job. So I think that's mandatory. The next thing I think these days is really kind of mandatory, but not completely, is a tablet. You can get yourself a really reasonably priced tablet, again, for maybe $100. Not a lot of money. In the used market especially, there are tablets that are literally giving them away. I can't count the times I've been at the store and there's like $80 for, tablets, even some of them that have keyboards, right? You don't need the best and brightest and most high-end laptop or high-end tablet to do your job. Now, the question that comes up as well with all this is, well, if I have a budget laptop, don't I look poor to the client? And the answer is no, I don't think so. A lot of people have this perception thing that's going around these days that if you don't have, especially with the Apple brand, that if you don't have an iPhone, you look broke to your friends. That is a millennials 20-something thing. In business, nobody cares. And in business, it's about end results, right? So put a sticker on it and call it a day. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to impress an imaginary fictional, person that's going to, look down on you for not having the right brand of laptop. Okay. It's far more important that you're able to open files and display information to prospective clients. I do think that having a decent phone is important. Certainly have yourself a relatively modern Android or iPhone or BlackBerry for that matter. BlackBerry's still in business. They make a decent device, something that can load and display what mobile sites are looking like to a given prospect or client. And if you have this rounded out repertoire where, this array of equipment where you've got, your base desktop at home, and you don't need to get a desktop, but again, they're cheap as well. But you have at least a place to hook your laptop up and hook it up and, hook your mic into it and do, your work from home there. You have a decent laptop and you have a decent tablet and a decent phone. You should be able to equip yourself for, I don't know, $500 or something, not a lot of money in the grander scheme of being in business. Walking around with missing pieces of equipment where if I ask you to do a demonstration on the web and I can't hear you because you're relying on the internal mic in the laptop and you're sounding all screwed up to me and I'm a prospect, well, I'm probably not going to buy from you because I can't understand you. There's no excuse for that. Or if we sit down and we're going to have a meeting, right, and you can't take your phone out, hit record and take notes, and then you miss things later on because of that, because, you chose to not invest in that, that's not good. Or having a tablet where you can easily and interactively display things so a person can touch and look at things on that. That's another thing. You should have these pieces of equipment. You should not spend all the money that you've got on them. Cast brands aside, look at features, look at what you're, getting for your money, really. And, just be conscious that what matters in the end here when it comes to all this equipment is just keep in mind it's a business tool. Once your business is on its feet, you can go back and you can lease all the best equipment that there is, right? Once your business is making some money, go and lease all the best Apple stuff because the leasing company will work with you. You've got cash flow. You're in good shape. That's all going to be a write-off at the end of the year anyway. But when you're just getting started, it's much better off that you have the full array as opposed to one piece of equipment and you're trying to plug holes and fill voids. Because if you're doing that, you're going to run into issues. Okay. Now, can you get away with it? Are people going to say to me, Jake, I work with just a laptop? Yeah, absolutely. You can get away with it, but that's the point. You're getting away with something as opposed to doing what's right. You don't have to spend a lot. You don't have to go into debt. You don't have to buy equipment that, you can barely afford to impress the Joneses because the Joneses don't care. These days, there's so much good equipment out there and it's so affordable. You have no excuse to be without. Anyhow, that's going to wrap up this video. If you want to have more tech tips here from Rocket Driver, go ahead and hit that like button, sub to the channel, ring the bell so you get notified when we drop new vids. I'll see you in the next one.